Good morning, everyone. So my name is Christophe Zuffre. Hostis, I hope you heard. And I'm working here in Brussels at the Secretariat in the EEA Coordination Division. And in this role, I'm the Secretary to the EFTA and the EEA Parliamentary Committees. So maybe referring to the last slide of Marit, saying that close cooperation and knowledge was important to the good functioning of the EEA. So it's basically what I do here with my colleague Jacqueline Bride-Leeds. We actually serve the advisory bodies to help them understand how it works and why it is important, this cooperation. So today I'm going to talk about the advisory bodies, as we call them in-house. So the EFTA Parliamentary Committee, the Consultative Committee, and the Forum for Regional and Local Authorities. Yeah, at the beginning I will explain a little bit why they are important, and then dig into more the specifics of each committees. So let's fly quickly to Geneva. It was said before that the EFTA headquarters is in Geneva. Actually, the highest body of EFTA is the EFTA Council, so the member states, which actually reflects the standing committee in the EEA cooperation. And back in the 70s, the Council created two advisory bodies, the Parliamentary Committee and the Consultative Committee. So it's quite easy. The Parliamentary Committee gathers parliamentarians from the 4 EFTA states, and the Consultative Committee gathers high-level representatives from the trade unions and business federations in each countries. And they have their main role or mandate is basically to provide advice to the member states on all issues of relevance for the organization, might it be on third country relation, so trade, or the EEA cooperation. So today you are at the EEA seminar. So we are basically, we'll focus on point 2, the relation with, no, point 1, sorry, relation with the European Union and the EEA cooperation. And I also wanted to mention that so these committees are important because they are essential links to the various member states, to the EFTA states when it comes to EEA cooperations. It brings the issues and knowledge closer to the citizens, business circles, civil society in the EFTA states, and ultimately they increase the legitimacy and the democratic accountability of the cooperation. You have seen this slide already before from Marit, so we are used today. You are used to hear twice the same things and see twice the same things. So I'm continuing the good trend. So she has talked about this two-pillar structure, where the EFTA institution reflects or mirrors the EU institutions. I wanted to start with focusing on the EFTA pillar, as we call it, the in-house discussion. Just to mention that this EEA cooperation, even though the agreement creates joint bodies, is of course being discussed within the EFTA structure between the different bodies. So the Parliamentary Committee, the Consultative Committee, they have joint meetings to discuss EEA cooperation, and they mean when needed with their ministers, of course, in the Foreign Affairs Minister of Iceland, Liechtenstein, and Norway, but also sometimes with the Standing Committee, so their ambassadors, or also on some specific issues with ESA, the EFTA Surveillance Authority, or the EFTA Court. So the EEA cooperation is being discussed between themselves and in the EFTA context. But basically, the EEA agreements, as you have heard before, creates actually joint bodies that replicates the institutions. And as far as I'm concerned, these are the EEA Joint Parliamentary Committee and the EEA Consultative Committee that takes place several times a year to discuss the EEA cooperation with the EU. There is the last one here. We have an EFTA forum that gathers representatives from regional and local authorities. Why is it outside the box? Actually, interestingly enough, because when the Committee of the Regions was created, it was after the signing and the entry to force of the EEA agreement. So there is no regional cooperation chapter or article in the EEA agreement, but it has been created later. So the Committee of the Region in '94, and then later on in 2009, on the EFTA side, there was also this EFTA forum that was created by a decision of the Standing Committee, and we're going to talk about it a little later. So this is my bread and butter at the Secretariat, basically. It's organizing the joint meetings of the EEA Joint Parliamentary Committee. So you can see on the slide, they meet twice a year. They have a scrutiny function. They monitor especially the legislative developments on the EU side with a focus on the internal market, single market, that may have an impact on the agreement. They can express views in forms of resolution and reports. But more importantly, what we do in this meeting is very carefully select the topics that will be discussed and the topics that are actually being negotiated or that are in the decision-making process at the EU level. When we discuss these matters at the JPC meetings, basically we're going to invite relevant players in the European Parliament, so the rapporteurs or the shadow rapporteurs that are in charge of a specific legislation. It's very important because at the end of the day, when the act is adopted at the EU level, it will be processed and incorporated into the EEA agreement, and it may have for consequence also legislative developments back home. So it's very important for the EFTA parliamentarians to be very early on informed and have the knowledge about these pieces of legislation, and then there will be a bit like the specialists, let's say, so to say, in their own parliament when it's going to be processed back home in the parliaments. They can, of course, share information with parliamentarians from the other countries, maybe Iceland or Liechtenstein, and, of course, set up a network with different key players in the European Parliament. Moving on to the social partners, so the concept is similar. They formally meet once a year. They have the same role with discussing internal market legislation developments. Actually, it's quite a flexible also framework. They met last time in May in Reykjavik, where they discussed the 30th anniversary of the EEA agreement. They adopted a report and a resolution on this. But they can also meet more regularly. So the next meeting is here in the EFTA House in November at the margin of the EEA Council. And they also adopt various resolutions and reports. And as similarly to the parliamentarians, it's important that social partners on the EFTA side can meet with their counterpart of the European Economic and Social Committee, and they're going to have a great focus on, employment, jobs, social conditions, but also EU legislative developments, what impact it has on the business environment throughout the year, and actually share knowledge and best practices in these meetings, and as well establish a good network to discuss. So next meeting will be on the 26th of November here at the EFTA House. And then the small brother, kind of, this EEA-EFTA forum, where we have regional and local authorities gathering. They meet at least once a year. They will also meet at the end of the month of November here at the EFTA House. And they take a very specific, more narrow look on the implementation at municipal level or regional level, and take an interest in a very concrete and specific legislative acts. So you can see below the picture at the last meeting last December, they were discussing the directive on wastewater treatment and also on soil monitoring. And they adopted opinions, and also throughout the legislative process at the EU level, they share these opinions with different stakeholders at EU level. So usually the responsible DG in the European Commission, but also the rapporteurs in the European Parliament and others. So I think I have respected my time allocated. It's always a big pressure with all this. So thank you for your attention, and happy to discuss with you later on during the day if you have any questions. Thank you.